and pretty soon the basement of our house was full, and my wife was suggesting I find another alternative for where to put them. And I realized in doing this that there was no place in the country where people could see early technology. There were museums that dealt with the programming, but nobody dealt with the technologies. Bought this building and started a nonprofit foundation, donated my collection, and we do have a number of items that have been loaned to us. And we're the only game in town. If you want your historical television set preserved, you can try to donate it to the Smithsonian or the Henry Ford Museum, but it'll just go into their warehouse because they put so little on display. So if you want to have your set displayed, this is the place to come.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
We'll get back to Captain Video in 1 minute. This is the Dumont Television Network.
The earliest television sets used mechanical means to create a picture. The first patent for television was granted in 1884. It described a system using rotating discs with holes drilled in them. One disc was in the camera in front of a photoelectric cell. An identical disc was used in the receiver in front of a neon tube. The picture was viewed through a magnifying lens in front of the disc. Find the small green sign with 2 on it. At that time, many of the components needed to make the system work didn't exist, such as vacuum tubes. Many years later, in 1926, a Scottish inventor named John Logie Baird produced the first television pictures in his laboratory in London. 3 years later, he was broadcasting to viewers. The pictures were extremely crude. Today's television pictures are made up of over 1,000 lines, allowing for very clear pictures. Baird's transmissions were with 30 lines. By 1930, there were about 30 stations in the U.S. and stations in most major European cities. Because they used the same channels as AM radio, signals could be received over long distances. This is the TV set that Baird's company sold starting in 1929. About 1,000 were made. The cabinet is metal and the viewer watched through the lens on the front. Find the small green sign with 3 on it. You could buy a TV set, or you could build your own, since they were simple devices. A few years ago, we interviewed Murray Mercier, his pictures on the wall, who told us that as a teenager, he helped his father make the first TV set in Columbus. The small set on the table was their first set. In 1928, they watched some of the first U.S. broadcasts of Schenectady, New York, and Washington, D.C. The next year, they built the larger set on the table. Murray's father rented a store on North High Street and put the set in the front window. Murray's job was to sit in the window of the store in the evening and keep the set adjusted so people walking up and down High Street could see television. Find the small green sign with 4 on it. This is the Western Visionette, an example of an American set that was sold to the public. About 500 of these were made. Find the small green sign with 5 on it. This is the Western Empire State Receiver. About 1932, a new technology emerged, which allowed the picture to be projected on a screen, allowing more than one person to watch it. However, the picture was very dim and still only had 45 lines in it. Because of the poor picture quality with mechanical television, it was impossible to do real television programming. Because of this, and since the Great Depression limited the number of people who could afford television sets, mechanical TV broadcasting came to an end in 1932. After you've finished browsing in the mechanical TV room, go back through the doorway and find the green audio tour box that says British Pre-War Television on it.
No matter where I go, London, Paris, Mexico, anywhere on earth, they know me place of birth. I met a girl from London when she sat on Blackpool Pier. She said, could tell I'm a lad from Lancashire. She said, are you a nudist? So I blushed and said, no fear, I'm covered up like a lad from Lancashire. North or south, when I open my mouth, they know that I'm not Dutch. They can tell I come from Lancashire, but they can't tell me much. I whispered I'll be nudist if you'll be the same, my dear. She said, no fear, with a lad from Lancashire. A widow nice and young and gay said, come to tea, my dear. I said, thing nice for a lad from Lancashire. We sat down on the sofa and I felt her creeping near. I said, take care, I'm a lad from Lancashire. North or south, when I open my mouth, they know that I'm not Dutch. They can tell I come from Lancashire, but they can't tell me much. That widow started kissing me and tickling me ear. I tickled her, like a lad from Lancashire. I went with Jane down Lover's Lane and whispered in her ear, now do your best for a lad from Lancashire. She said to me, when on my knee, you can't do that, dear ear. I said, I can, I'm a lad from Lancashire. north or south when I open my mouth. They know that I'm not Dutch. They can tell I come from Lancashire, but they can't tell me much. That night when Jane got home again, her ma said, you look queer. I'll bet that's been with that lad from Lancashire.
In 1939, RCA decided that it was time to make television available to the American public. RCA had a large pavilion at the 1939 World's Fair featuring television. Find the small green sign with 1 on it on top of the television camera. There was an area at the fair where people could stand in front of a TV camera and their friends could see them on television. This camera may have been one of those used at the fair. When the fair began, NBC, which was owned by RCA, began regularly scheduled TV programming. To the right of the camera, find the small green sign with 2 on it. RCA introduced their television product line at the fair. The cheapest, which is on the left, required a separate radio for the sound. The most elaborate one, on the right, included a radio and had a 12-inch picture.
We now take you to the New York World's Fair of 1939.
Hello again and good evening. This is your World's Fair reporter Russ Johns speaking to you from our special studios on the balcony of the City of New York building at the World's Fair, bringing you news, information, human interest stories, and this evening a little guest from the world of tomorrow. And now your World's Fair reporter Russ Johns bids you good evening and extends an invitation to come up to our studios right across from the Trilon in Paris Fair anytime you're in the neighborhood. And remember, only 12 more days to see you at the fair. This is the Municipal Broadcasting System.
To the right, find a small green sign with 3 on it. Many other companies also started selling sets in 1939. Andrea made a 5-inch set with a magnifying lens to make the picture appear larger. Next to it is a kit set, which took dozens of hours to assemble. You could save a few dollars by doing it yourself.
Near the audio tour box, find the small green sign with 4 on it. General Electric made 5 different models of TV sets in 1939 and 1940. About 7,000 sets were made in the United States during 1939 and 1940, and about 350 survive today. As with the British pre-war sets, a mid-range set cost as much as a new car. When the United States entered World War II in 1941, production of TV sets stopped, though many stations continued to broadcast with experimental programming throughout the war. Go around the curtain and find the small green sign with 5 on it.
During the war, engineers learned a lot about technology, especially from radar and aircraft communication, that could be applied to television. As a result, the sets made right after the war were much simpler, more reliable, and cheaper. A typical 10 or 12-inch set cost about $400 compared to about $1,600 for a car. These sets are from right after the war. As you can see, manufacturers were experimenting with all sorts of cabinet designs to find out what would sell. There were dozens of companies making sets. This is the Dumont Custom. It was made to mount in a wall in your living room. There had to be a closet behind it for servicing, since something went wrong with the early sets frequently. A set like this was expensive, almost $2,000. The Emerson Videograph video jukebox was made in 1947, before most people had seen television. Put a quarter in, and you could either listen to 5 songs from its jukebox or watch TV for 30 minutes. In 1948, the 7-inch set was introduced. Some with built-in magnifiers. This might seem like a step backward, but it allowed sets to be sold for under $200. Because the cost of a television set kept dropping, television grew very rapidly. At the end of 1947, there were only 200,000 sets in the United States. By the end of 1953, 6 years later, there were 18 million, and half the homes in the country had TV.
Next to this box, you will find a button that you can push to turn on the TV sets in this area.
Folks, if you feel weak and run down, check with your doctor, but remember, your weak run-down condition may come from a lack of certain essential vitamins. To help you feel better fast, take Geritol, the multivitamin dietary supplement that helps to quickly restore those vitamin deficiencies that may be the cause of your trouble. Yes, in just 24 hours. Vitamin-packed Geritol is in your bloodstream, carrying the essential vitamins to every part of your body. So if you're feeling weak and run down, tired and listless due to a vitamin deficiency, try Geritol, liquid or tablets at your drugstore. You'll feel better fast because Geritol is packed with all the essential energy-releasing vitamins. But be sure you get what you ask for. Geritol, Geritol. You will feel better fast within 7 days or your money back.
Now, go past the first row of curtains and look to your right. At the end of the room, find the small green sign with 5 on it. These sets were sold to bars and clubs in the late 40s, when only a few people had TV in their homes. However, many people went to bars and clubs to watch television. The 1948 World Series was televised, and millions of people saw it at those locations. In the late 50s, manufacturers started using plastic and metal for cabinets. The gold and red RCA Portable and Aqua Sylvania Dualette are examples. Nearby, find the small green sign with 8 on it. Look behind you at the far end of the room and find the small green sign with 6 on it. The Dumont Royal Sovereign was the largest black and white set ever made, with a 30-inch screen. It was made in 1951 and cost almost $2,000. The Philco Predicta has a space-age look. This version has two parts, the screen that goes in front of the room and the control unit which goes next to your couch or chair. A heavy cable connects them. Now, pass the next row of curtains and find the green audio tour box for color television.
The first color television system was invented by John Logie Baird, the same person who demonstrated the first working black and white system in 1926. On the wall, find the small green sign with 1 on it. A wheel containing segments of each of the 3 primary colors was placed in front of the camera and another one in front of the receiver. One after another, red, blue, and green images were transmitted. It happened so fast that your eye integrated the picture into a full color image. The same method, called the field sequential system, was used by CBS before World War II in an electronic version. After the war, CBS pressured the government to adopt a color system before black and white set sales took off. The main problem with the CBS system was that it wasn't compatible with black and white broadcasting. 2 channels would be required in each city for each station, one for color and one for black and white. RCA was working on a compatible system, but progress was slow. Finally, in 1950, the FCC, which regulates TV standards, agreed to hold a competition between the RCA compatible system and the CBS field sequential system to see which would be the standard for the United States. At the time, the RCA system was in the early stages of development and produced poor pictures. The CBS system produced excellent pictures, and the FCC adopted the CBS system. A few programs were broadcast in a few cities, including Columbus, in 1951. This is a studio monitor for the CBS system. To the left of it is a converter, which was placed in front of a black and white set to produce a color picture. RCA was making great progress on its compatible system, and by 1951 it was clear that they would be successful. So CBS abandoned its system in late 1951. The RCA system was finally adopted by the FCC as the color standard at the end of 1953. Here are the first color sets sold to the public in the spring of 1954. The Westinghouse and RCA sets had only 12-inch screens and cost over $1,000. At that time, you could get a very nice 21-inch black and white set for $250. As a result, only about 5,000 were sold. On the other side, find the small green sign with 4 on it. During 1955, sets with 21-inch screens were introduced. Over the next 10 years, the sets got somewhat cheaper, but few were sold because of the cost, unreliability, and lack of many color programs. In the mid-60s, RCA teamed up with Walt Disney to produce a show called The Wonderful World of Color. Its purpose was to sell color TV sets, and it worked. 1970 was the first year in which more color sets were sold than black and white.
Go to the end of the room where the picture tubes are and find the green sign that says Broadcast Equipment. Take the ramp down and find the green audio tour box to your left. This room contains our collection of early television cameras and other broadcast equipment. In the middle of the floor are early cameras. The RCA TK31 was the first camera sold after World War II. It was used in TV stations all around the country through the 50s. Also on display are early color cameras from the 60s and 70s. The large camera behind the van is the RCA TK41, the first color camera made in 1954. We are in the process of restoring it. Next to the ramp is an RCA TK1 monoscope camera. In the 40s and 50s, the monoscope produced a test pattern that was used after programming ended early in the morning to adjust the equipment in TV stations. The row of large cabinets is an early television transmitter. This one was owned by Channel 6 here in Columbus and was located at the top of the Levesque Tower beginning in 1949. The large truck is a 1948 RCA Noble production van. This type of van was sold to TV stations around the country. This one was originally in Salt Lake City, Utah. It contains most of the original equipment from 1948, including 3 cameras. In 1960, it was sold to an educational station in Newark, Ohio, where it was used until 1970. It was then donated to the Ohio Historical Society, which has loaned it to us. In order to get a picture back to the station, a microwave dish was put on top of the truck. A similar dish was mounted on the TV station transmitting tower. These 2 dishes had to be aligned in order for them to work. Someone had to climb the tower in all kinds of weather to aim the dish. Originally, the truck didn't have air conditioning. Imagine being an engineer in the summer in Utah. The windows had to be closed since they needed darkness to view the monitors, and the equipment generated a lot of heat.
We are in NBC's World Communications Center in the heart of Radio City, New York. We are in touch with the world. We'll tell you what's happening today. My name is Jack Lascula. And here is Dave Garrell.
We're going to try very much to put you more closely in touch with the world we live in about the magnificent, unparalleled means of communication which NBC has assembled into a single room in New York. We call this room our Communications Center. From it, we'll put you in touch with the whole world, and not only with news, which we'll cover as no program ever has been able to cover before, because we didn't have this many tools, but we'll give you lots of music of today, what good records are coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow in art, tomorrow in science, tomorrow and today in sports. All fields of human endeavor we think we'll be able to inform you better about, and the people who are close to you than you had a chance to be informed before, so that as you leave the house at the end of the day, you're close to it at the beginning of the day, knowing where you're going and what the world is like that you're going into. And you'll find our Communications Center full at work and about to put you in touch with the day. Let me take a little tour with you, if you're not busy for a second, and find out some of the tools and some of the people who work on the news as it comes in. This is in no sense a studio. This is really a working news center. The news actually is written and put together here in front of your eyes, and will be every morning, by pretty girls like Mary Kelly, who's talking to who you talking to?
I have the Weather Bureau waiting for you today.
Oh, that's nice. You got your electric typewriter working too?
Mm-hmm.
This is a fantastic machine. If you can get real close to it, it sounds like a machine gun. Isn't that pretty? How fast? Yeah. Here are the guts of the place. This is where the machines do the news and bring it right into us. Here's the United Press teletype in this corner, and International and AP over here. All the news services feed into here. And let me make the point. See all these newspapers here? This is not a program from New York to you someplace if you don't live in New York. This is a program from America to America, so that the guy in one city knows what the people in other cities are feeling and thinking.
This ends our audio tour of the museum. Feel free to take your time and look around.
Thanks for visiting the Early Television Museum. We hope to see you back soon.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
We'll get back to Captain Video in 1 minute. This is the Dumont Television Network.